Hey, Assalamu alaikum, guys.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam. How's it going?
Alhamdulillah, good. Alhamdulillah. Yes, it feels a little bit incomplete, but we're gonna make it work. Yes. Um, and we'll see Zainab next week, inshallah.
Definitely. Yeah. How was your week?
Oh gosh, it was pretty good. I would say, well, how do I start this? Because I'm trying to practice what I preach and reframe things. My daughter cracked her tooth a couple
Oh
of days
no.
ago. Remember? Yeah, I think so I'm like, what is going on from broken bones to cracked teeth? You know,
Wow,
I'm like,
look,
I
that is
don't know. They're really juicing this childhood for what it's worth, you know? So yeah, I'm just, I guess when they say things are beyond you, it's like, don't get in your emotions. We got to handle it. We got to move on. So I'm really trying to practice what I preach these days, and these kids are surely testing it.
wow, subhanAllah. One thing
Yeah.
my um one thing that my friend always said was like if you're having like a difficulty or a hardship, to definitely
Mm,
give sadaqah for your
mm,
children in the name of your children. Um
subhanallah. Yeah.
yeah, to kind of alleviate that situation. And of course,
Still can't
make
hear
dua
either.
for them.
Can't hear anything.
It's so interesting you say that because we always think, or at least myself, you give
Doing sound.
sadaqah, it's in your name, as the adults. But that's so
Oh,
interesting.
you
I
can hear me
didn't think
now?
Yeah, we can
okay.
Okay,
hear
good,
Uh-huh.
good, good. Yay!
hmm Yeah, I didn't think of getting sadaqah in my children's name, so I'm definitely,
Okay,
definitely going to do that. Yes. Whatever we can do to have that
is
barakah
everybody
pouring
ready?
down on us.
Kalila, how was your week? I'm not sure if Kalila can hear me.
Hmm.
Okay.
Uh, okay. Her, is she?
Okay, get the names.
It doesn't show on mute.
Okay. Hold on. Sorry, guys. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties.
hmm Maybe we can say raise your hands if you can hear us.
Okay. Because I think Kalila's supposed to open up, inshallah.
Yeah. Well, her mic is but yeah, I think she should hear. That's not on her end. Um, otherwise, I can actually, you know what? So let me open up while hopefully we try to figure this out. I'll do that.
Leave and
Yeah.
come back.
hmm We can, yeah. Can you? Um,
All right.
okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, yeah, I will just go over um the announcements. Inshallah. Give me a second. Okay. So like I said, we're practicing what we preach and rolling through the punches. So we, stick with us. We'll get the technical end of the stuff figured out. But in the meantime, we do have some awesome announcements for you guys. As you know, our mugs are still for purchase. I definitely have my mug. Sorry, can you guys see me? Maybe I need to back up a little bit. I definitely have my mug. And it's definitely full of hot coffee this morning. I'll tell you
Is
that much.
it?
It's not tea, it's coffee extra strong. Yes, it's been one of those days. So yes, they are $25 per purchase. You still have some left plus shipping. The interesting thing about this, I was thinking yesterday of sometimes why we buy things, and usually they serve two purposes. So yes, a coffee mug is great for drinking coffee, but if you think about it, coffee is also a time that we wind down, we reflect. And when I do that, I love to look at this image, on my cup. And when my kids see it, particularly my daughter, to see the reflection of four Muslimas looking back at her. So if you would like to buy this mug for you or another family member, a daughter, or auntie, definitely reach out to us. All right. Next, we're streaming live on YouTube. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Okay, for our latest videos. COVID hit us big, but please be on the lookout for more in-person events as COVID restrictions are lifted. Okay, so we had a barbecue last month, and definitely be on the lookout because we are excited to hopefully have more in-person events. Next up. So my mini course launched yesterday, and it's going really well. Today is the second day, so if you missed it this time around, no worries. I do definitely anticipate offering the workshop again in the fall, inshallah.
And would
Okay?
you be able to play that video of your workshop?
Sure.
Okay, so I definitely wanna do that because
Mhm.
mashallah, it's such a beautiful workshop. And
Thank
I
you.
think it's
Yeah.
so important that, I mean, even if you don't have children with special needs, as a
Mhm.
parent myself, I'm going to attend this this workshop because it's
Yeah.
so important that we're not feeling guilt as parents about
Mhm.
anything that we're doing, and just really trying our best to put the best foot forward. So inshallah, let's play that video.
Over the course of 17 years in the special needs community, I have worked with hundreds of families. I am also the mom to a beautiful teen with autism. It always amazed me how, despite having access to countless hours of therapy and going to the best of schools, some families seemed to thrive while others fell apart. Some children were calm, grounded, loving, and courageous despite their challenges, while others were constantly fearful, anxious, and withdrawn. As a special needs parent, the best gift you can give your child is to heal your own trauma and to release negative emotions. Fear, anger, and guilt will rob you of the joy, happiness, and freedom you yearn for. On the flip side, when you are able to love and accept yourself fully, your child, your spouse, and your home as a whole will shift immensely. So, if anything I said resonates with you, I invite you to join my 3-day mini course beginning June 12th. I promise you, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, beautiful, mashallah. I really enjoyed just the whole advertisement of it, that whole process.
Yeah.
And I hope that it really gets to the audience that it needs to. And then even if it's not for you
Exactly.
guys, please share with other people.
Yeah. As I mentioned last time, it's interesting. Sometimes the people who need things the most aren't always open to it or have access to it. It's like who the friend who who's depressed, for example. They're not in their depressive state. They're not actually looking at resources to resolve their depression. They need family and friends to sort of say, here, you take a look at this. I think this might be of benefit to you. So it's a lot of times when we're so up and close in a situation, sometimes we feel like we're even drowning in it. So definitely, like you said, Naima, even if you're not a special needs family yourself, definitely share it with someone who you think could benefit, inshallah.
Well, guys, I think we'll start the actual program for today. We apologize for the inconvenience of our technical difficulties, which seems to be a norm for us. So, alhamdulillah, like it's, our norm. And inshallah, khair, without
Yeah.
further ado, I guess we can kind of just start.
Yeah. Now, I did want to make one more announcement.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, that's no problem. So my workshop is currently in progress, and we have exciting news. Zainab Abdurrahim, our founders workshop, will be next month, inshallah, the exact date to be announced. So we are really excited about this. This will be her third time, inshallah, facilitating this workshop. And each time she has facilitated, she has gotten excellent feedback, simply because it is pretty much for us, by us. So definitely be on the lookout for that, inshallah. And lastly, just the $50 donation. As you know, we are a nonprofit, alhamdulillah. We are glad to have that title. And if you give us a $50 donation, you will not only get your own coffee mug, but as an extra thank you, you are invited to come to any workshop of your choosing. So it's definitely a win-win for both of us, inshallah. And those are the announcements.
Okay, lovely. So inshallah, all right. So this week we are doing a part 2 of cultivating the
Yeah.
next generation. And I think there were some topics that a lot of people, it really hit home for some people.
Yeah.
And the equality between
Mhm.
males and females, once again, in regards to Islam, we have an equal opportunity to get into Jannah. And I think it's really important that we know that different cultures, people's cultures, they are going to address these issues in a different way. However, overall, Islamically, I think it's important that we are raising our children in
Yeah.
a manner that is equal. That one doesn't feel overburdened with the pressure of being more Muslim than the other. So then there was that topic. And then, inshallah, we wanted to touch on the topic of actually, how do we do that? Some pointers for how we're doing that, and how to kind of balance being a Muslim parent in a Western society. How do we balance all of those things? Because it's not an easy task, as many of us know. And we always hear that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And it's sometimes we kind of feel isolated and left alone in this really large process of raising, of child rearing into functional Muslim members of society. And I think that that would be, I think that's the last topic we'll get into.
Yeah. Naima, when you were talking, and really what prompted us, because initially we were just going to have a part 1, and then because of the feedback, we realized that we had to kind of explore this further. But it's just so interesting, because I think as a Muslim community as a whole, we oftentimes just get to the surface of things, and we have to go so deep. I was actually in a discussion, actually yesterday, on hijab, and the reasons why sisters do or don't wear hijab. And initially it was just surface level. Yes, we know the ayahs of the Quran. Yes, we know the hadith, but we understand that now. Let's go a little bit deeper. And I just think even this topic is an excellent example of that. We know how we're supposed to raise our children Islamically, but we're still human beings, right? And I think a lot of times this just really speaks to, we can have things in theory, but how do we put it into practice? And honestly, that's really the overarching goal of the Muslim Wholehearted Initiative. We have all these complicated, uncomfortable life experiences, and how do we navigate that? So I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited that we are doing a part 2.
Right.
As you mentioned, Naima. Yeah, so definitely. I just wanted to share that. Give me 1 second. So the first, actually, I think I can probably go into our first question, if you don't mind. Actually, my internet is actually it's a little on the slow side also. I don't know what's going on today. But so our first question was, and Naima, if you don't mind answering it, and then you can circle it back to me. Growing up, did you witness anything in your household or community that you felt was unfair to you as a young woman? How has that impacted the way you parent? It's a pretty, multi-part question.
So, to be honest, well, in my household, it was only girls. So, alhamdulillah, mashallah, with that, I believe that my parents did their best. I mean, at the time of growing up, my dad did not have any sons. Like, there is literally like almost a 20-year gap.
Wow.
Yeah, my siblings range from, 45 till 10. That's a whole nother show. But there's at the time my dad didn't have any sons. So he kind of raised us like boys as well. So it was like, oh yeah, mashallah, we were very feminine, but at the same time, we know how to change a car tire. And
Wow.
put up paintings, etc., etc. So we had at home, mashallah, we had that balance of like knowing how to do both things. But then I realized within the Muslim community and seeing other people from different cultures and different nationalities, how their parents would be a little bit biased in terms of girls can do this and boys have these rules and the girls have these rules. I watched it from afar. Also, I within the community growing up, at times I did feel as though there was so much more pressure for there to be have these well-bred women and
definitely
your sons were allowed to. But I also felt it like from like community leaders or people just within my community.
Could you give an example of that?
So you would always hear, khutbas.
The reason I say that is because everyone will say, that's not me, I don't do that. But then the example, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm guilty of that. Yeah.
Well, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry.
I'm so happy. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm so happy, alhamdulillah, that you're here. Okay. Sorry, guys, once again for the technical difficulties. But
making it work.
So yeah, we're doing our best. Alhamdulillah. So an example of that would be like, oh, make sure your girls are wearing hijab, but there's no visible thing for your sons to be Muslim. Are your girls making salah, but the boys are outside playing basketball while they're making salah? If there's some kind of bouncy house, and I think this is the one, it's childhood trauma. This is the one that bothered me for Eid. I remember my mom being like, you can't go in the bouncy house. I was like, but I want to go into the bouncy house. And it was because, your dress would fly over your head. I'm like, Mom, you put those old britches on me. Like,
right. Isn't that why we all wore pants under our dresses, right?
From the
my gosh.
Yeah, no, I literally had them on. Like, those British ones from like the from the 19th century. Like, I had those on. I'm like, but the boys were allowed to like go in the bouncy house and there wasn't an issue, but like girls that were reaching the age of puberty, it was just like, oh, okay, well, tell your daughters to calm down. And it was never like kick the boys out for 5 minutes and let the girls have a good time. So growing up, that kind of that was a bit irritating. Gracie, I didn't hear you. Hold on.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. No, it's so interesting because Kalila and I both laughed when you mentioned, isn't that why I got them britches on under my dress? Because we all experienced that. Like, even as a young adult, I'm like, ooh, this is a cute dress shirt, like, it's just so interesting how we all have just like very similar experiences. Yeah. Kalila, what was your thoughts on that? Did you see any kind of, I guess, biases growing up, and has it kind of impacted the way you raise your daughter?
I mean, I think probably similar along the lines what Naomi was discussing, going
Mhm.
to certain events, especially Islamic events and things of that nature. And again,
Mhm.
it seems like it always seemed like the boys kind of had a little more freedom and then a little more
Yep.
opportunities to do certain things, particularly when it came to sports and things of that nature, activities. And then the girls were kind of just left to the side to, to do
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
and I remember as a kid thinking that's so unfair. Like,
Mhm.
why can't I go play basketball? I mean, I like basketball. Yeah, why can't I play basketball
Mhm.
too? Or,
Mhm.
soccer or ride. Well, I did have a skateboard, but just
Oh, you were one
but
of the
yeah, I
lucky
was one of those
ones.
girls. I was want to do what the boys were doing, So,
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I do the same thing? But there just wasn't
Yeah.
opportunity for us or space for us to really get an opportunity to do those kinds of things, unfortunately, when we were growing up, and I remember thinking, this is not fair. How come we're always boring stuff and the boys get to have all the fun and they can,
Exactly.
have all the
And
freedom to do this and that and we can't do nothing.
it's sad because actually looking back, and I had the same experience. It's like I almost didn't look forward to becoming a young woman or like the rite of passage. Look at like when I really look back on it, and it's really sad because it was almost like, you're becoming a preteen,
Yep.
11, 12, 13 years old. And so much attention is on what's going to be taken away from you. Well, you're not going to be able to do this anymore. You really shouldn't do. And it's like, I don't know if the community is aware that they're doing that, but as a young woman, that's how I was made to feel. So like you said, like different sports. Oh, well, I'll give you an example, the pool, right? Okay, well, you're not going to be able to go to the pool because, and on the one hand, I get that, but as adults, as parents, as a community, what are we replacing that with? And I know we talked about that last week because once again, it feels like if I put my place of being that young girl again, it feels like things are always being taken away from me, or it's almost a punishment inherently just being a female.
Absolutely.
And I remember saying like, wow, it must be nice to be a boy.
Right.
That must
I remember thinking the same thing. Exactly.
That must be fun.
Yep.
And it's just like, so I guess, because the second part of the question is then also how does that like impact the way we raise our daughters? I know we all have daughters. Well, I guess even how we would raise our sons too, if you have sons, but and my kids haven't reached that age yet, but I'm, as you guys talked about, trying to make things balanced. Okay, so if my young daughter who's 8 is going to wear a hijab outside, which is optional, I want to make that clear. That's a whole nother tangent we can go down. If my daughter's 8, she's going to choose if she wants to wear a hijab or not. That's just my personal, and that's another topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, she should be able to choose.
I'm sorry. I just want to interject. What about the audience? Have you guys ever experienced anything similar? If you guys could write that out in the comment section, that would be really great. Have you guys ever experienced that, male or female? Did you guys ever notice that there was a difference in treatment or people, how they raise their sons and how they're raising their daughters? That would be really great to hear some feedback from the audience.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sorry, what was it? Oh, yeah. So when it comes to that, and I haven't got there yet. So I guess we'll see. But I'm just in that situation. I guess what I would have liked to happen to me is that, okay, you can't go swimming, but you know what? Maybe we can get a group of your friends together. Maybe we can rent a pool. Maybe the Muslim community. And this is very simple to do, but it's just that I think what kind of is missing more so is even the thought process, and it's this underlying belief, like, why wouldn't you just want to sit home and do nothing, So I think that would be the way it would impact me when my daughter gets of that age, is that, okay, you shouldn't necessarily do these things. It might not be the best environment, but this is what we can do. And kind of,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. Because even my daughter mentioned that sometimes with her peers at school. And then I think it's like you said, it's really the thinking and the thought process goes into it. A lot of parents just are not thinking along the lines of, let me make sure that my daughters have some outlet, something that they can do they can enjoy themselves. I think the minds just don't go there. She'll mention things like going out to do something like play in the park. She mentioned riding a bike to her friends or horseback riding to her friends, which she was really excited to share with her friends. And they were like, horseback riding, we can't do that.
You see,
you can't go horseback riding. Stuff Allah. She was like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? So I was like, and I think, again, it goes back to what we were saying last week with culture as well. I think that affects a lot of how we think about certain activities and things for the girls.
Yes.
So if we're thinking horseback riding don't virgin anymore, they're not going to have
Kalila,
children.
You bring up such an important point. I wish Zainab was able to attend today, but she's attending to a personal matter. She'll be back next week. And sorry, I should have mentioned that our lovely founder Zainab unfortunately is not here with us, but she'll be returning next week. I forgot to mention that. But what you were saying too speaks to something else, because I remember Zainab and I were having a conversation, and when we were younger, we were told we shouldn't, and I mean younger, like pre-teens, not to let your daughters ride bikes.
Yes.
And we were riding bikes. Like we were some tomboys. But why is it's like the pressure's always on the girl rather than the society or the man. And I don't like that. So rather than tell, okay, your daughter shouldn't be riding a bike, well, what can we do? Does she need to wear a longer shirt? Does she need to go someplace else? But just to outright say she can't do this, she can't do that, it's really depressing, So as you were talking about your daughter doing horseback riding and all these activities, it's just like, come on, people. We got to do better,
And I think that's the main point. Alhamdulillah, now I think that we are seeing more communities giving alternatives, because we're losing our youth.
We are.
For that very same reason.
Yeah.
And it's really important that we are giving alternatives. Like, okay, if we're not going to do group swimming, then let's rent out the YMCA for the day or every, month, etc.
Yeah.
If we're going to have horseback riding, let's have it for, the girls and the boys on a separate day. Or there just needs to be that balance, especially in childhood, because then we are putting our kids, if we're having our girls sit at home, what that results in is children that are overweight. And that and like being overweight comes with a whole nother set of issues, self-esteem issues. In addition to self-esteem, it's like they are unhealthy because you're just not exercising. And I think that, especially with this pandemic that has this global pandemic that has reached every end of the world, it's obvious people that were more healthy did better if they did get the virus, versus people that were ill or had underlying what is it?
Health issues.
Underlying health,
yeah. You're not exercising and you're not running, and you're not jogging, and you're not physically active. You're going to see, a lot of health issues. So I think that by having your daughters just sit at home, it puts a whole nother set of issues. A whole nother set of other issues on top of them. So
sorry, Naima. Sorry. I was going to mention something, as you just mentioned something so profound, because sometimes we don't see the connection between that depressed woman was a depressed young girl or teenager at one point, and you can't, not have confidence, not believe in yourself, not have interests, hobbies as a teenager, and then suddenly in a marriage you're going to have all these things. It doesn't work like that. Right?
What are our girls' interests? Do we know what their interests are? Do they have hobbies? If they're stuck in a house, not being introduced to new things, how do we expect our daughters as well as our sons to be well-rounded if we're only introducing them to, here's a new electronic. Here, go to the masjid, here's an electronic, which also is contradictory because a lot of parents don't understand how to, what is the word I'm looking for? Restrict. So you're giving your kid access to the whole world, but you don't know how to turn it off at 9 p.m. You don't know how to censorship certain websites. So it's like, this is haram and that is haram. You know, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, committing zina is haram and adultery is haram and all of these things are haram, but you don't understand ratings on movies. So your child is watching rated R.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like, it's not violence rated R, it's sexual.
Yeah.
So it's like, we can't do this, but you're developing all of these overwhelming feelings and ideas and these quote unquote ideas of freedom
Mm-hmm.
that are being
But you're at home, you're not outside. So.
Right, you're at home. You're
Yeah.
not outside. You're romanticizing over these ideals
Mhm.
that are unrealistic in many cases.
Yeah.
And we give no other alternative. We're not a part of our children's childhood. So I think that's a really important part that any parents that are listening, be a part of their childhood.
Yes.
Who
Yeah.
do they like? What are they doing? It is better to know that your child is secretly listening to music and what they're listening to, as opposed to not knowing.
Yeah.
So, because if you don't know, you can't correct it.
Mhm.
If your child is secretly, you know, vaping in the bathroom stalls at school, if
Mhm.
you don't know, you can't correct it. So there's a lot of times, and I say this from the position of being a teacher, I know students very well, who they really are, and their parents are completely clueless
Wow.
as
Yeah.
to who these people are.
You know, Naima, when you say that too, and I think we spoke about this last week, that takes a certain amount of vulnerability on the parents' part, which a lot, unfortunately, may not have, or that's their struggle. But like you said, when you catch your child maybe maybe smoking, maybe listening to music, like how is your reaction? Of course, you want to let them know you don't approve of this and you won't tolerate this. But from one human to a next, have you ever done that? You know, so, and how did you navigate yourself out of that? Because if doing this all day really worked, then we wouldn't have these problems, right? So I think a lot of times as parents, we forgot we were teenagers or we were young people, and then just how to relate to them. You don't have to debase or, you know, degrade them in the process of, I guess, reprimanding them. And it can be a teachable moment, and it can, you know, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. I remember years ago, my kids found pictures of me without my hijab on, okay? And they were like, "Mom, who is this? What are you?" And I'm like, "Give me them pictures. You know, where'd you find this?" But you know, and it was kind of uncomfortable. And I said, "You know, Mom, it was a journey." So on and so forth. And of course, Mommy should have been wearing a hijab. These are some of the reasons why I wasn't. You know, but I'm so proud of you because you are doing these things. And you know, but I was just talking to them as a human, what peer pressure is, all these different things. So I definitely agree with both of you guys. And I think it also comes down to, you know, the parents and their level of vulnerability. I also wanted to go into the next question because I know, I don't know about you, but I can be long-winded when it comes to, because so many of these questions are just so layered, you know, so layered. But I know for the sake of time, we want to try to cover as much as possible. So the second question is, sometimes our children can be our teachers. What's one valuable lesson you have learned from your child or your child has taught you? And I just thought this is an interesting question because so many times the younger generation gets a bad rap. You know, they're this, they're that, they're this, they're that. But in some ways, and I guess we can give examples, they're doing a little bit better than us, you know. So did anyone want to chime in and kind of say how your, you know, your child has kind of taught you a valuable lesson?
Taught a valuable lesson. Well, for me, I don't know if she taught me a valuable lesson, but she did have done things in the past, or, you know, that I was proud of her. It really showed her strength and her where she is as a young woman. One example was when I think she was about in, I want to say maybe like 5th grade, maybe. And a really close friend of hers was struggling with hijab. Now, she went to Islamic school, so, you know, as part of uniform, they have to wear hijab. But a lot of the girls outside the school don't wear it. And one of her close friends that she was really close with was one of those girls who didn't wear it outside of school. And my daughter would encourage her and like talk to her every day and try to encourage her to wear it in a really sweet, cute way. You know, that was her bestie at the time. And then one day the little girl came to her and said, "Guess what, Zaina? I wore it outside over the weekend. I was out and I'm wearing it now, you know, even outside of school." And Zaina was so happy. And she came home and told me, that was like the first thing she told me. She's like, "Guess what? So
Wow.
outside now too, not just in school, but she wears it when she's not in school too." And she's so happy. So then I was really cute. She was encouraging her like every day. She would talk to her and encourage her. And she's like, "You can do it. I know you can do it." And really pumping her up and try to, you know, build that confidence in the little girl that she can, you know, that, you know, you can do this. This is something that, you know, we should be doing. I know you can do it. I know it may be hard at first, but and the little girl finally did. And she was wearing it full time, even outside of school. So I thought I was really proud of her in that moment because, you know, how she treated her friend and being there for her and being that support for her friend and really encouraging her the whole time to do it, you know?
Yeah. That's amazing, especially as a, sorry, do you guys hear an echo when I talk or is it okay now?
It's okay.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, especially when it comes to young people, because basically, you know, when we think of young people, we always think of peer pressure, but this is like, you know, her influencing her in a positive way. So that's amazing. And that speaks volumes to you as her mother. Don't we always want, you know, we got to pat ourselves on the back when we see our kids doing something, you know, or when someone else tells us something that they did. It's like, wow, really? My child. But no, that speaks volumes to you, Kalila. Mashallah. Yeah. Naima, did you
So for me, I want to say the biggest things that my kids taught me, because I think Khalil and I have girls that are the same age, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to say the biggest thing that they taught me was one thing that you did say is about being vulnerable and being honest, having open conversations. So I want to say that that's what they taught me, to be real and real with them, and honest.
Yeah.
2, consistent in my actions, because teenagers will call you out.
They do.
And the last thing that I want to say that they really taught me, gosh, it's like fleeting at this moment.
It's so many things.
Be a good example, right? For me, myself, to actually do what it is that I'm requesting of them. So, for example, I think last week we had touched on it, like, hey guys, like I need some help. I'm being honest. I'm being consistent. Of course, there's chores in the house that they are responsible for. But the reason why you have this is because I need help too. I can't do this alone. You know, so I'm being honest with them. I'm having open conversations. If they see pictures or questions, or they have questions, like, have you ever felt this way? Of course I felt that way. Of course I've had crushes on boys, and I've, thought of doing bad things, and all of those things are a normal process of life and growing up. And I'm just real with them in the sense that, I've experienced that too. You're not experiencing this alone.
Yeah.
Everybody has gone through this. And it's really interesting because I'm the same way with my students. And they're like, wow, our parents would never have this kind of conversation with us. Or, wow, my parents, they make it seem like they were on the straight and narrow their whole life. Like they never done anything wrong. And I'm just like, okay, well, and to the youth, a lot of times it seems very hypocritical because you're asking me to do something that you yourself aren't doing. And that was the last thing, doing the things that I'm requesting of you. So like things that are not above and beyond, but things that I want to encourage them to do. Like, for example, and I gave the example last week with, going to the Sheikh to Sama with Quran. And like he's ripping you a new one for your tajweed, and they're like, well, you don't understand. And I'm like, how hard could this be? Until I was literally shaking because I was like, oh my God, am I going to get this right? Because because I'm not saying this with proper tajweed.
Yeah.
And it's not that, oh, of course, obviously we're not going to get beat or we're not going to get hit and like all those other things, but it's like, okay, well, there's a sense of responsibility. There's this sense of like, oh my God, of like your own personal embarrassment. Like, oh, I didn't memorize properly. And like, I should have done this properly. And just to be able to experience that with them as they were having that, I think that also added to our relationship, because now it wasn't, well, you don't know what I'm talking about and you're telling me to do this. It was like, let's practice together. Let's do this. I'm nervous. You're nervous. Okay. Are we going to run past the sheriff's door today? And
Yeah.
it also built, this type of relationship between us. So that's what they taught me, is how to just be real, consistent, and actually get in there and be a part of their childhood and be a part of their experience.
That is
Naima, when you're saying that, especially towards the end, I just think about sometimes as parents we can minimize our children's experiences, not on purpose, but and so for example, we all get nervous. We might get nervous when we're going on a job interview, or we feel like as adults, our problems are so huge and so big and so important. Yeah. But guess what? To them, even if your child is 6, 7 years old, their problems are this big and this huge and this important. And I think sometimes we don't see that and we minimize that. So a 6-year-old, not having a friend, that's meaningful and important to them. A high school student not knowing whether they're going to get into their college or not, that's important. It's not, I'm sure you'll get into another school, because thinking back now with hindsight, we can see that it wasn't such a big deal perhaps. But when you're going through it, everything sometimes, honestly, especially during the teenage years, is a big dramatic deal. And I think sometimes as parents, we have to make sure, not speaking to you, Naima, at all. I think you're excellent.
No, but you're absolutely right.
We have to, even if it's not a big deal to us, and that's where the empathy comes in, right? It's a big deal to them. And how do we hold space for them to, navigate that and so on and so forth. So that was an excellent point. Yeah.
No, and you're absolutely right. We shelter, mashallah, a lot of us go to all lengths to shelter our children from all of these other things. So in turn, we really shouldn't minimize their experiences, even though to us, because we have experienced life traumatizing or traumatic things, maybe because of, socioeconomic status, maybe because our, immigrating, people were immigrating to this country, or, maybe you didn't grow up in a 2-parent household, whatever whatever the situation may be, whatever your experience was, you have to remember that, as a parent, we have worked our best to shelter them from those. So not getting into schools and getting into schools and graduating from 8th grade are big deals.
Yes.
Because we have worked hard so that they're sheltered from other experiences.
Oh my gosh, Naima, you are dropping some gems, because this is just like so profound. And I remember, I don't know if you guys ever watched Red Table Talk with yes, but I remember, and because Jada spoke to this, and it just stopped me in its tracks, because she was like, obviously her and her daughter grew up with completely different socioeconomic backgrounds and cultures. And she said when her daughter's very emotional, Jada's very reserved, would cry over things, would get upset over things, it would irritate and anger her so much, because she was like, oh my gosh, girl, you don't know what I've been through. Like, this is nothing. Like, almost like man up, like a woman's version of man up. And she really had to do her own work, because like you said, Naima, didn't we do all this work so we could afford our children the opportunity to explore their emotions, to feel safe, to feel all these things? Isn't that why we, I guess, like you said, if we came from poor socioeconomics, or we came, if we were immigrants, so on and so forth, wasn't that the end result that we were looking for? So I just thought that's so profound what you say. And we really do have to be careful of that. Their experience is totally different from ours, but we still
And
have to
it's a
acknowledge
valid
that.
experience, and it's
Yeah.
valid.
Yeah. Whew, that's, I mean, I hope we don't have a part 3 to this. But I did want to ask our next question. Well, this is kind of a loaded question. But so as Muslims living in America, we can't shield our children from society. What are some practical ways we can approach topics with our students or children, such as the whole LGBT movement, feminism, atheism, so on and so forth? Like that's, I mean, these things are just everywhere and they're becoming more and more normalized. So when I was younger, even 10 years ago, it was kind of like a whisper. You hear a little bit, you know,
Right.
here and there, or that person's a little bit strange, or you're an atheist. Oh my gosh, you know, but
Right.
now it's becoming two things. It's becoming so normalized, and as scary as it sounds, it's seeping into the Muslim community. Like, so we can't ignore that. We can't ignore that these philosophies are seeping in, and some of our children are kind of exploring them, perhaps. So hopefully, I will do Billah, none of you
Yeah,
know.
this is like, now the reason why this is so difficult is that I think, I'm sorry to just jump in.
Sure, no, let's, yeah.
So,
I'm right in. Please, I need help unpacking this.
okay, so this, you're right. This is completely loaded. So within the Muslim community, now this is really difficult because as we know what our stance is Islamically.
Yes.
We know what it is. However, we don't live in a Muslim country. This is a Christian country. This is founded by Christian people. It is supposed to be the republic, a democratic republic, and the system is ran by people that are not necessarily interested or accept our way of life. So I think that with taking all of that into consideration, and Muslim people are here, it's super important that our kids understand that there are people that do these things, and there is a hard line of we don't do these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for us to understand. There are people, and that's the other thing. Let's not pretend that they're non-existent.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go and, be crazy. I'm saying that there are people that do this, and this. There are people that do not believe in God. There are people that have two mothers and two dads. However, we are Muslim, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that we do need to have these conversations with our kids, because I'll never forget when I think my eldest daughter was 7 and we were at Mac, and I was trying to buy like a lipstick or something random. And a gentleman, I want to say, came over and helped us. And this was the only person that came over and talked to me. Everybody else ignored me because, I'm hijabi over there, or maybe they didn't think I had, whatever the case is. Nobody else came. This gentleman came over and helped. He had a full beard, a V-neck shirt, a mini skirt, eyeshadow, and lipstick.
Wow.
So, right, exactly. So this and beautiful Farrah Fawcett hair to add.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, thank you. Got my stuff, had a normal interaction. And then at the end, as we got, like, we were a good 30 feet away, and I'm like, thank God my children have manners. Woo.
Some kids when I said something like
have manners. My daughter was like, she was like, Mom, was that a lady or was that a man? And I looked at her and it was like, you know what? I don't know. Do you remember the people of Lut?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh yeah, I remember this story. And I said, and we went over this story. I talked to her about this story, and I was like, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we're supposed to have one woman and one man, and that we're not supposed to dress like the other. Women aren't supposed to dress like men, and men aren't supposed to dress like women. And I was like, do you remember that story? And she's like, yeah. And I said, and what happened at the end? And she was like, oh, okay. I said, all right, is it okay? So I said, you will see people like that. I was like, sometimes we might be kind of living in the land of the people like Lut. I was like, so we just have to remember, of course, we're going to give dawah. And I was like, the reason why I'm not going to be rude or disrespectful is like, because you know what, my behavior can be a dawah to these people. And we hope that one day that that this person who was visibly confusing to my child was there. And so, like, once again, there are people that do this, and this. However, there's a hard line between what we do and what other people do. We are Muslim. This is what we do. But I had that conversation with the 7-year-old. And obviously when she got older, we had that same, revisited that conversation in a different manner. So we're having this same conversation in different ways that is age appropriate. As much as we want, a lot of us don't put our kids in Islamic school. In kindergarten, 2 years ago, they introduced into the social studies topic same parent marriages in social studies for 5-year-olds. And if I'm not mistaken, that was in New York State, and also how to pleasure yourself for 5-year-olds.
Yeah, they're getting it earlier and earlier.
Right. Yeah. So as Muslim parents, you need to have these conversations.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Especially because again, it's everywhere. We know these things have creeped into the Ummah, like we said. It's going to come up even in Islamic school. But again, especially in public school, like I said, they have whole curriculums designed around this topic, and they are teaching the children whether you want them to or not. And again, they may even have a student or a friend in class who maybe again gender non-conforming or goes is referred to as they instead of she or him.
Yes.
This is real. This is what's going on. This is out there. This is what our children are being faced with on a daily basis. So it's very important to have these conversations with our children. And like Naima said, whatever age they are, you have the conversation at an age appropriate level. So you have it, if they're 5, you have it, in a way, you have the conversation in a way that a 5-year-old can understand and comprehend what you're talking about. And as the child gets older, then again, that's when you start having make sure the conversation is age appropriate, something they can grasp and understand at that age. But you have to have these conversations with our children. We absolutely must. We cannot ignore it.
We can't afford to ignore it.
We cannot.
Kalila, when you were saying, I had to take a deep breath when you were saying the pronouns he, she, they, because it's getting real now. It is getting real. Like, I was like, I'm sorry, what's going on here? Like, even on the applications, they're like, okay, are you male, female, gender neutral, prefer not to reply? I'm just like, I can't keep up with this, guys. I can't, but it seems like what y'all both are speaking to, and this is why, once again, going back to the households and then even the larger Islamic community, Quranic stories or having halakas with our children, even if it's in our households. But you know how the old timers say there ain't nothing new under the sun? Like, there's honestly nothing new under the sun. So it might seem like these things are, and it's difficult, atheism, the LGBT, but guess what? Wasn't there idol worshipers, right? Yeah. And even a 4 or 5-year-old can catch on to that, like you said, Lut, Sodom and Gomorrah, so we are hearing all these stories. And I think that speaks to something else. We love to show off sometimes our children memorizing Quran, what surah are you on? But more now, just as important it was back then, what is Allah conveying to us? Exactly. What are these stories really talking about? Who are the people who gained Allah's favor, and what is their end result? Who are the people who gained Allah's displeasure, and what is their result? Because sometimes too, it becomes an issue of, well, mom is just too uptight. Islam's is just too rigid. It's not about me. Because at the end of the day, like it or not, and we spoke to this last week, our kids are going to be adults. Yes. And we can't just say this is wrong. We're really just trying to enhance their thought process, So because some things but might seem kind of appealing or curious. That
Absolutely.
looks
And let's
interesting.
be real, a
Let
lot
me.
of our children are experimenting and dabbling into these things. So as a parent, you need to be made aware of these things and look out for the signs.
Yeah.
And active a part of their life. Because also one thing I did notice is unfortunately, even in Islamic school, we are faced with these issues. And I did have at one point a girl explain, sister, well, how can I not have feelings for another girl when I'm only exposed to girls?
Wow.
I leave home, I go to my beled, and I'm isolated. I come back to, the US, and I am isolated with only girls. And then I'm overwhelmed with the TV and media. She wanted to know, are these feelings normal? And I'm overwhelmed with TV, and I'm overwhelmed with media. And they're telling me that it's okay to explore these experiences and that you are normal.
Yeah.
And so that was like a whole conversation that I had to address with the student because she had valid points of her isolation and she's prepubescent, and no matter what, you're going to have some kind of thoughts or some kind of feelings. But when you're in a society that is telling you to explore and telling you to that these feelings, they're very normal and they're very natural, and to go out and be active. It's not just, oh, you have a thought.
Yeah,
it is
telling you to get active on it.
It's the active part. So those are conversations, and it was amazing because after we finished our conversation, she's like, oh wow, subhanallah, I didn't understand that, and I didn't even understand my own feelings. Thank you so much. And just that conversation helped that student so much.
Wow.
Whereas she thought she was, having this or having that or confused, or does she belong to this group? And she loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and she loves being Muslim, but what is going on in her head and her body and her mind? She felt isolated and didn't feel comfortable enough to speak to her parents. So I think that that's really important, that we are talking to our children.
Yes.
Naima, sorry. It's like when you were saying that, it's like we might not still understand that our children are under attack, as serious as that sounds. Like marketing, social media, this is a multi-million, billion-dollar industry of how we can get your children. And I mean, honestly, your child can be watching a cartoon, it can be 4 or 5 years old, and there'll be 2 male characters kissing. Or there was a Netflix movie, this is the other day, I'm allowing my children to watch it, and my daughter's like, look, mommy, that character's dressed up in a dress and he's singing like a girl. And I said, well, maybe he's a girl. She said, no. Yeah, she said, no, mommy, I know he's not, because they made his voice so masculine. So like they're purposely like, don't mistake it for a girl. We want you to know that this is a man who we are dressing up as a girl in this cartoon that you're watching. So it is just so many. And if we, I can't just be like, okay, well, turn the TV off. Let's turn the channel. No, we have to kind of explore that, because like you said, this is everywhere, and they're preying on, I just honestly, I want to almost say, like honestly, because they're preying on even our children's developmental levels, our children's developmental, what they desire, their impulses. They study all these things. So they know, for example, what Naima said, a child, prepubescent, their hormones are raging. And honestly, and this is another topic people might find controversial, but it is actually normal up until a certain age to maybe view the opposite sex and be attracted to them. This is and I can explain this further. So it's almost like, actually, I'll take that back, because every attraction to society sexualizes it. So let's just put that on the table. But if I'm a 10-year-old girl and my tutor is 20 and she's beautiful, I admire her. I wish my body, this is a 10-year-old girl, I wish my body could look like hers when I grow older. I wonder how she, I remember being younger and us asking each other in 5th grade, are you wearing a bra yet? Or what size? We're curious. Exactly. So we're curious. Then it's that admiration, but what the society is doing, it's so sexualizing it.
Yeah, it's sexualizing everything, yes.
So it's just so, it's just so disheartening. But we, as adults, we have to have this knowledge and we have to be aware of it, you know? So I'm just so glad that we're exploring this, I guess, somewhat uncomfortable topic, but.
And once again, I think the biggest takeaway is be a part of your child's life.
Absolutely.
And really have conversations with them. Cannot hide anymore as parents. We can't say, do as I say, not as I do. We really need to be actively a part of their life, what's happening, regardless of how busy we are, regardless if we're working or not working. Make them a part of your Islamic journey. You're getting up for Duha Salah. You're getting up for Tahajjud. Make them a part of it. Let them be a part of your Islamic journey. Your closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let them be a part of it. And really and truly, like, engage them and ask them, who are you? How many of you guys know who your children are? What do they like to do?
True.
Not what they wanted to do when they were 5 years old, but who are they now? And I think that's really important. We're understanding. I'm gonna go to the comments. As of now, I don't have any comments. So I was waiting for it. I didn't see any comments. I didn't see anything. I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. Zainab, I miss you.
They say, you know, the absence makes the heart grow fonder.
So it says nothing. Like, I don't see any comments. Oh, wait, hold on.
Well,
maybe I'm doing this wrong.
I was gonna say otherwise.
Comments.
So otherwise we'll figure it out, and they always know once we post the live, they can always leave their comments, and we can respond to it. You know, we can respond to it there, inshallah. So I actually wanted to, with that being said, I just really want to go into our quote for today. When I found this quote, I think it really speaks volume. I didn't know how we were going to execute this topic, but I really think it speaks to everything we said today. And it says, if you don't listen eagerly to the little stuff when they are little, they won't tell you the big stuff when they are big. Because to them, all of it has always been big stuff. Right? So I really think that speaks to everything we talked about. You know, you can't be, you know, physically present but mentally absent from your child and then expect suddenly, you know, they're going to just open out their heart to you. Oh, now we see a comment.
Thank you.
So yeah, I really, really love this topic. And if you guys did not post, those of you who are watching us, if you did not have a chance to post your comment on our live, please post it once we post this up in our Facebook page, because this is really, really an important topic, not only for us, but for our community, you know, as a whole, inshallah. So yeah, with that being said, if we have any closing thoughts, let's share them, and then we're gonna kind of close out.
No, I think that's it. I don't see any more comments. And yeah, we wanted to keep it to close to an hour.
Perfect.
Well, we accomplished that. We had technical difficulties, but we have good time management. Right. Okay. All right. Well, it's been good. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Assalamu alaikum, guys.
Alaikum.
Don't forget our mugs.
Correct.
This is what you strive for, what you sent for. I wanna go where no eyes never seen, no ears never